Hey everyone, this is Neues Ziel, and I'm currently working on another master grade project, but as I'm in between painting sessions on that project, I'd like to answer a question I received via a YouTube private message with a video, and this question actually pertains to how I mix my paints. Somebody asked me, they saw that I use syringes to mix paints, and they asked me how I clean these, because that is actually quite a tedious bit of work. And if I was only to answer that question, this would be a very short video, because the answer is I don't. I don't clean these. I've devised I guess a clever method to use these syringes to mix paints and determine ratios very effectively, but I do that without actually having to later on clean these. So right now I'm just going to show you how I actually mix my paints. Okay, so let's just go over what you're going to need for this. Obviously, to mix paint, you're going to need cups. You can take these small clear plastic shot glasses. I find these come in handy a lot. I usually use 2 cups for mixing paints at one time, and you'll see why in just a second. Obviously, you're going to need a syringe, just an old brush that you can use for stirring the paint. One of these dentist tools that I use to, just stir the paint. I use Tamiya paints, and sometimes the paint settles at the bottom. Obviously, you're going to need thinner. This thinner right here is something that I actually use to clean this brush. Some paper towels, and of course this plastic hose right here. And the key to this is, this has to be a hose that fits onto the tip of the syringe, like so. So you have to match the diameter of this hose, or the inside, to the tip of the syringe, and that's actually what I use to suck up the paint with the syringe here. And obviously I've got my airbrush in the back here. Once you mix the paint, you can put the paint in the airbrush. So first things first, obviously before painting you should always know how much paint you need, and seeing as this is just a demonstrational video, I'm going to be using about 1 milliliter of this paint, so I'm going to cut off about 8 centimeters or a bit less than 4 inches off of this hose, and this is going to be enough for 1 millimeter of paint. I'm just going to put this hose away. Next I'm going to fill a little bit of this other thinner into a cup. This is for cleaning the brush after stirring the paint. And then obviously we're also going to need another syringe for the thinner. So first off, with old paints that have settled over weeks, obviously first you have to stir them, like so. And depending on what kind of paint you're using, that might take a little bit longer or not so long. In this case it's taking a bit long because I've actually never used this paint. This is a Tamiya acrylic paint, and that should be enough. You can just use a paper towel to clean that dentist tool off. And then next I can take my syringe, and seeing as I'm going to use 1 milliliter, I'm just going to set it to 4 milliliters so that I only have to go up to 5 milliliters for 1 milliliter. Put that hose in there and just pull up 1 milliliter of paint, and then put it in this mixing cup, and then we're almost done. And now I can take this hose off, and the syringe is completely clean. I don't have to worry about cleaning that. And then I can just take my airbrush and blow it in there to get the rest of the paint out. And this right here I can now throw away. And that's a very easy and effective way for getting paint into the required amount into that cup without actually having to dirty up that syringe. Now I'm just going to take about 1.5 milliliters of thinner, apply that to the paint in the mixing cup, and then I'm going to use my old brush just to stir the paint here. I hope you can see, because I think my hand is blocking the cup most of the time, and just keep stirring for a while. Okay, so now all I have to do is clean off this brush with a paper towel a little bit, and then clean it off in this thinner. And by doing that, I can actually reuse this brush 1,000 times. I think I've been using this brush here alone for the past year or so, without ever having to get a new one. And while you can't use it for painting anymore because it's really in bad shape, you can always use it for stirring, and it's more suitable than this because it has a larger, I guess, area, you could say. And now you can put this in your airbrush. You can use the dentist tool to help pour that into the airbrush, but basically that's how I mix my paints, without actually later on having to clean these syringes. Okay, so I guess that does it for this short video. The key ingredients to this whole technique is really finding the proper hose for whatever type of syringe you're using, but for this type of syringe I found that a hose with an inner diameter of 4 milliliters is perfect. And yeah, they're really cheap, and just buying these types of hoses and using them until you can throw them away is so much cheaper than maybe using one of these syringes a couple of times and then having to throw it away, because you can never get all of the paint out of this syringe after using them while cleaning them. So this will save you a lot of bucks over the course of months or years. So I hope that brought a little insight into how I mix my paints, and I'll see you in the next video.